I threw the phone against the fireplace mantle. It shattered into a dozen black plastic shards. My chest heaved up and down like a bellows. In the ICU. The words echoed around the empty living room. Sarah was in the ICU. Overdose. Sleeping pills. They found her in a motel room off the highway. A note was pinned to her shirt. I didn't do it. Just 4 words. I grabbed my car keys and sprinted out the door. I didn't lock it. I didn't care. I tore out of the driveway, leaving rubber on the asphalt. The engine roared as I floored it down the suburban streets. My mind was a hurricane. Was this guilt? Was this regret? No. It was anger. She was trying to manipulate me even now. She was trying to guilt me back into this lie. I would not let her win. I would save her life just to hear her confess. I ran 3 red lights on the way to St. Jude's. I nearly sideswiped a delivery truck merging onto the freeway. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel. I screamed at the windshield. Why, Sarah? Why did you have to make this so messy? You could have just signed the papers. You could have just admitted you slept with him. Whoever he was. Maybe an ex-boyfriend. Maybe a coworker. Maybe a stranger at a bar. It didn't matter who. It mattered that it wasn't me. I screeched into the hospital parking lot. I parked in an ambulance zone. A security guard started yelling. I tossed him my keys. Move it yourself. I ran through the sliding glass doors. The smell of antiseptic hit me like a wall. I hated hospitals. They smelled like death disguised as cleanliness. I marched to the reception desk. Sarah Miller. Where is she? The nurse looked up over her glasses. She is in critical condition, sir. Are you family? I am her husband. For now. Room 304. I didn't wait for directions. I ran toward the elevators. I jammed the button repeatedly until the doors opened. Inside the elevator, I checked my reflection in the metal wall. I looked deranged. My eyes were bloodshot. My shirt was wrinkled. I hadn't shaved in 4 days. The doors dinged open on the 3rd floor. I stepped out and immediately hit a wall of noise. Get away from her. It was her father, Bill. He charged at me like a raging bull. He was 60 years old, but he was big. He shoved me hard in the chest. I stumbled back, but kept my footing. You did this. He screamed in my face. Spittle flew from his mouth. You killed my daughter, you son of a bitch. I shoved him back. Get your hands off me, Bill. She did this to herself. She is the liar here. She is the cheater. Bill swung a fist at my face. It connected with my jaw. A bright flash of light exploded behind my eyes. I tasted copper. I didn't hit him back. I just wiped the blood from my lip. Is she dead? The question hung in the air. Her mother Martha was sobbing in the waiting room chairs. She looked up at me with eyes full of pure hate. Not yet. But if she dies, Mark, I swear to God, I will ruin you. She never cheated on you. She loved you more than anything. I laughed again. That same broken, dry laugh. The DNA test says otherwise, Martha. 0%. Do you know what 0 means? It means impossible. It means she lay down with another man. It means that baby in her belly is a bastard. Bill lunged at me again. 2 nurses rushed in to hold him back. Security. We need security in the ICU. I straightened my jacket. I'm not going anywhere until I see her. I need to know if the baby survived. Martha stood up slowly. Her voice was cold as ice. The baby is fine. For now. But Sarah has brain swelling. She might never wake up. And if she does, she won't remember you. Good. I said it before I could stop myself. That would make the divorce easier. The security guards arrived. They grabbed my arms. Sir, you need to leave. I shook them off. I am leaving. But you tell her when she wakes up. I am not done. I will get that paternity test redone by a court official. And then I will sue her estate for emotional damages. I turned and walked away. My face throbbed. My heart pounded. But I felt a sick sense of satisfaction. I was the victim here. Why was everyone treating me like the villain? I walked out of the hospital into the blinding sunlight. My phone buzzed again. It was an unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something made me answer. This is Mark. A deep voice spoke on the other end. Mr. Miller. This is Dr. Vance. From the fertility clinic. My stomach dropped. The man who helped us conceive. The man who took our money. What do you want, Vance? I'm going to sue your clinic too. For failing to detect her infidelity. There was a silence on the line. Heavy. Pregnant. Mr. Miller, please listen. We heard about the DNA test results. Sarah called us before the incident. She was hysterical. She demanded we check our records. I snorted, trying to cover her tracks. No, Mr. Miller. We did check. We found an irregularity. I stopped walking in the middle of the parking lot. Cars honked around me. What kind of irregularity? We need you to come in. Immediately. It's about the sample. Which sample? Mine. Or the other guy's? Yours, Mr. Miller. And hers. There is something you need to see. Something we missed during the initial screening. It might explain the 0%. I felt a chill run down my spine that had nothing to do with the wind. What are you saying? Are you saying it's my kid? I can't say more over the phone. Just get here. Click. He hung up. I stood there frozen. The world tilted on its axis. Could it be? Could the lab have mixed up the vials? Was it a clerical error? If it was, oh God, if it was an error, and I drove her to suicide, I would be a murderer. I jumped back into my car. I drove like a maniac toward the clinic. It was 40 minutes away. I made it in 20. I burst into the waiting room. The receptionist looked terrified of me. Dr. Vance is expecting you. She pointed to the back. I stormed down the hallway. Dr. Vance was sitting at his desk. He looked pale, sweaty. He was holding a file folder. Sit down, Mr. Miller. I remained standing. Tell me, right now, is that my child? Vance swallowed hard. He opened the file. He slid a paper across the desk. It wasn't a paternity test. It was a genetic marker analysis. We ran a deep sequencing on the embryo biopsy we saved, and we compared it to your blood sample from 5 years ago, and we compared it to Sarah's. Okay, and, Mr. Miller, the baby does not match your DNA. I slammed my fist on the desk. I knew it. So why are you wasting my time? She cheated. Vance held up a hand. Wait, that's not all. The baby does not match Sarah's DNA either. The room went silent. The air was sucked out of the space. I stared at him. What? That's impossible. It's in her uterus. It has to be hers. Unless you implanted the wrong embryo. My rage shifted targets instantly. You incompetent hacks. You put someone else's baby inside my wife. You gave us the wrong kid. I'm going to destroy this place. I'm going to burn this clinic to the ground. Vance shook his head quickly. No, Mr. Miller. We thought that too at first. We thought we swapped the tray. We audited the entire week's procedures. No other couple is missing an embryo. And no other couple has your genetic profile. Then explain it. How can a child growing inside her not be related to her? Or me? Vance took a deep breath. He pulled out another picture. It looked like a microscope slide. This is rare. Extremely rare. 1 in a billion. We have only seen this in textbooks. Have you ever heard of chimerism? I frowned. Like the myth. The monster with a lion head and goat body. Human chimerism, Mr. Miller. It happens in the womb. Sometimes 2 fraternal twins fuse together very early in pregnancy. One twin absorbs the other. The surviving twin is born healthy. Normal. But they carry 2 sets of DNA. One set is their own. The other set belongs to their vanished twin. I blinked. My brain was struggling to process this. What does that have to do with us? Vance pointed to the paper. We tested Sarah's skin cells. They didn't match the baby. Then we tested her ovaries. Or rather the follicle cells we harvested. They have a different DNA profile than her blood. Sarah is a chimera. Her blood type is A. But her reproductive system is type B. Genetically speaking, Sarah's ovaries belong to her unborn twin sister. The sister she absorbed in her mother's womb. I felt my knees give out. I sank into the chair. So, the baby is genetically her niece. Technically, yes. But biologically it is her child. It was made with her egg. Just not the egg that matches her cheek swab. I rubbed my temples. My head was pounding. Okay, that explains her. But what about me? The test said 0% paternity for me too. Is the baby my nephew too? Did I absorb a brother? Vance looked down at his desk. He looked nervous again. This is the part that gets complicated. We tested your sample again. Your DNA is normal. You are not a chimera. Then why doesn't it match? If she didn't cheat, and you didn't swap the embryo, how is the baby not mine? Vance hesitated. Mr. Miller, when we did the IVF procedure, we used a sperm sample you provided on November 12th. Yes, we analyzed the vial that was left over. The DNA in that vial does not match you. I stared at him. The world stopped spinning. It just froze. What? I gave you that sample. I walked into the room. I did my business in the cup. I handed it to the nurse. I know, Vance whispered, but the sperm inside that cup was not yours. I stood up slowly. Are you accusing me of faking it? Are you saying I brought someone else's sperm in my pocket? No. We checked the security footage. You were alone. Then how? Vance opened the bottom drawer of his desk. He pulled out a black binder. He slid it toward me. We had a technician working here. His name was David. He was fired 2 months ago for theft. We started reviewing his logins. David was processing your sample that day. We found notes in his personal drive. He was running a side business, selling premium donor sperm to couples who were having trouble. Without telling them, he would swap the samples in the lab, thinking he was helping or playing God. I felt bile rise in my throat. So you were telling me that some lab tech threw my sample in the trash and used some stranger's sperm to impregnate my wife, without either of us knowing? Vance nodded. Tears were in his eyes. We are so sorry. We are prepared to offer a settlement. $50 million. Whatever you want. Just please, keep this quiet. I didn't hear him. I couldn't hear anything. Over the roaring sound of my entire reality collapsing. Sarah was innocent. Sarah was telling the truth. Sarah was a medical miracle and a victim of a crime. And I had destroyed her. I had called her a whore. I had thrown her out in the cold. I had driven her to suicide. I looked at the clock on the wall. It had been an hour since I left the hospital. I need to go. I stood up, knocking the chair over. I grabbed the file. I need to show her this. She needs to know she isn't crazy. Mr. Miller, wait. We need you to sign a non-disclosure agreement before you take that evidence. I looked at Vance. I looked at his pathetic, sweaty face. I punched him. Hard. Right in the nose. Bone cracked. He fell backwards in his chair, screaming. I took the file. I walked out. I drove back to the hospital. I did not speed. I drove with a cold, terrifying calm. I pulled into the parking lot. I walked up to the 3rd floor. The waiting room was quieter now. Martha was gone. Bill was sitting alone, head in his hands. He looked up as I approached. He didn't look angry anymore. He looked broken. Get out, Mark. I held up the file. I know the truth, Bill. It wasn't her. It was the clinic. They swapped the sample. She told the truth. Bill didn't move. He didn't look at the file. He just stared at the floor. It doesn't matter, Mark. What do you mean? She needs to know. It matters. Bill stood up. He walked over to me. He put a hand on my shoulder. His grip was weak. She died 10 minutes ago. I dropped the file. Papers scattered across the hospital floor. Genetic sequences. Apology letters. Charts. All meaningless. No. I pushed past him. I ran to room 304. Nurses were unhooking the machines. The heart monitor was silent. A flat line on the screen. Sarah lay on the bed. She looked peaceful. She looked like she was sleeping. But her skin was too pale. Her chest was still. No. I walked to the bed. I grabbed her hand. It was still warm. Sarah. Sarah, wake up. I know. I found out. You were right. Please, baby. Just open your eyes. The nurse put a hand on my arm. Sir. She's gone. Get off me. I shook her off. I fell to my knees beside the bed. I buried my face in her sheets. And I wept. I wept until I couldn't breathe. I wept for the wife I murdered with my doubts. I wept for the baby that was still alive inside her dead body. Wait. The baby. I shot up. Where is the baby? She was 6 months pregnant. The baby is viable. Did you save the baby? The nurse looked at the doctor. The doctor stepped forward. Mr. Miller. We tried an emergency C-section immediately after her heart stopped. And the baby survived. He is in the NICU. He is very small. But he is fighting. I stood up. I wiped the tears from my face. Take me to him. You can't, sir. You aren't the father. Remember, you screamed it at everyone. I grabbed the doctor by the collar. I am his father. I am the only father he has. That file on the floor proves it. It was a lab error. Now take me to my son. They led me to the NICU. It was dimly lit, full of beeping machines. There was an incubator in the corner. Inside was a tiny creature. Wires everywhere. Skin see-through. But he was moving. His tiny chest was rising and falling. I looked at him. This boy. This stranger's son. This child born of theft and tragedy. He had Sarah's nose. He had her chin. He was the only piece of her left on this earth. And he wasn't mine. Not even a little bit. But as I looked at him, I made a vow. I would find David, the lab tech. I would find him and I would make him pay. And I would raise this boy. I would lie to him every day. I would tell him I was his dad. Because I owed Sarah that much. 5 years later, the park was crowded. Kids screaming on the swings. I sat on the bench watching Leo climb the slide. He was tall for his age. Blonde hair. Blue eyes. He didn't look like me. I had dark hair and brown eyes. People often commented on it. He must take after his mother, they would say. I would just nod. Yes, he does. Leo slid down and ran over to me. Daddy, look. I went so fast. I smiled. You sure did, buddy. He climbed onto my lap. Daddy, can we get ice cream? Maybe later. My phone buzzed. I checked it. It was the private investigator I hired 4 years ago. I had spent my entire settlement money on him. $50 million. All of it to find one man. David, the lab tech. He had vanished after the clinic fired him. He had changed his name, moved countries. But I never stopped looking. I opened the message. We found him. He is in Chicago, working under the name Paul S. There was a photo attached. A man in a coffee shop, smiling, living a normal life, while Sarah rotted in the ground. I felt the old rage ignite in my belly. It was a familiar friend now. It was the fuel that kept me going. Daddy, are you okay? Your face looks scary. I looked down at Leo. I smoothed his hair. I'm fine, Leo. I just got some good news. Daddy has to go on a trip. For work? Something like that. I stood up. Come on. Let's go get that ice cream. We walked toward the ice cream truck. But then Leo stopped. He pointed at a man sitting on the other bench across the path. Daddy, who is that man? I looked over. The man was staring at us. Intensely. He looked familiar. Too familiar. He had blonde hair. Blue eyes. He looked exactly like Leo. Just older. My heart stopped. It wasn't David. David was the thief. This man was the source. The donor. The man whose sperm was stolen. The biological father. He stood up and walked toward us. He didn't look at me. He looked straight at Leo. He crouched down. Hello, Leo. Leo hid behind my leg. Who are you? The man looked up at me. His eyes were cold. Calculated. I'm the man who wants his son back. I stepped between them. Back off, or I will kill you. The man smiled. It was a cruel smile. You can try, Mark. But you should know. I didn't just lose a sample. I didn't just have it stolen. I sold it. To David. We were partners. We targeted wealthy couples. Couples with big settlements. We knew eventually you'd find out. We knew you'd sue the clinic. And we knew you'd get paid. I froze. The puzzle pieces clicked into place. The theft. The discovery by Dr. Vance. The $50 million. It was all a setup. A long con. Sarah wasn't just a victim of negligence. She was a victim of a heist. And now they were here for the payout. Or the kid. How much do you want? I hissed. The man laughed. I don't want money, Mark. I already got my cut from David. Then what? Why are you here? He looked at Leo again. Because my son has rare genetics. Chimerism runs in my family too. And I need a bone marrow transplant. And he is the only match. I grabbed Leo's hand, squeezing it tight. You are not touching him. You are not taking one drop of blood from him. The man stood up. He was taller than me. I have a court order, Mark. And since you are not the biological father, and since Sarah is dead, and since I can prove I never consented to the procedure being stolen, but rather misplaced, I have custody rights. He pulled a paper from his jacket. The police are on their way to escort him to the hospital. I looked around. A police car was pulling up to the curb. 2 officers were getting out. Panic clawed at my throat. I had lost Sarah. I would not lose Leo. Run, Leo. I whispered. What? Run to the car. Lock the doors. But Daddy, go. I shoved him toward the parking lot. Leo took off running. The man lunged for him. I tackled him. We hit the grass with a thud. I punched him in the jaw. He hit me back. Hard. The police were running toward us. Hey, break it up. I scrambled to my feet. I saw Leo get into the car. I saw him lock the doors. Good boy. I raised my hands as the cops drew their tasers. I surrender. I yelled. But as I went down to my knees, I saw the man smiling again. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at my car. He pulled a small remote from his pocket and pressed a button. My car, with Leo inside, clicked, and the engine started. But I didn't have the keys. I had them in my pocket. Remote start. But why? Then the car shifted into drive. By itself. It was a modern car. Hackable. No. I screamed. I ran toward the car. The taser hit me in the back. 50,000 volts coursed through my body. I fell face first into the dirt. My muscles locked up. I watched helplessly as my car drove away, with my son inside, driven by a ghost in the machine. The man stood over me. He leaned down to my ear. Thanks for raising him through the diaper years, Mark. We'll take it from here. Darkness swallowed me whole. The cell was cold. Concrete walls. Metal toilet. I had been here for 3 days. Charges: assault, kidnapping, interference, public disturbance. They didn't believe me about the car. They said I was hallucinating under stress. They said Leo was missing. But I knew. I knew where he was. The man said he needed bone marrow. That meant a hospital. But which one? Not a legal one. If they were criminals, they would use a private facility. My lawyer walked in. Not Mike. Mike had retired. This was a public defender. Kid who looked 12. Mr. Miller. We have a plea deal. I don't want a deal. I want my son. Look, Mark. The police found the car. I shot up. Where? In a ravine. It was burned out. My heart stopped. And Leo. The lawyer looked down. They found remains. Small remains. Teeth. They matched dental records. I sat back down. The world went gray. Gone. Everything. Sarah. Leo. My life. It was all gone. Are you sure? DNA confirmed it. I closed my eyes. Wait. DNA. I opened my eyes. Which DNA? The lawyer frowned. What do you mean? Leo was a chimera. Remember? Sarah was a chimera. The donor was a chimera. His dental DNA might not match his bone DNA. Or his blood DNA. If they found teeth. And they matched the records. Which records? The records from the dentist I took him to. But if the kidnappers wanted his marrow, they wouldn't burn him. They needed him alive. They faked the death. They pulled his teeth. Oh God. They pulled his teeth to fake his death. Torture. But he was alive. I felt a spark. A tiny ember in the ash of my soul. I looked at the lawyer. I'll take the deal. What? I'll plead guilty. To everything. Get me out on probation. Get me time served. Whatever gets me out these doors the fastest. The lawyer blinked. Okay. I can try for suspended sentence due to grief. Do it. Today. 6 months later. I stood outside an abandoned warehouse in the docks of Seattle. It took me every cent I had left to find this place. I sold the house. I sold the cars. I cashed out the 401k. I bought information from the dark web. Medical shipment records. Immunosuppressants delivered to a shell company. Bone marrow harvest equipment. This was it. I checked the gun in my pocket. A 9mm I bought in an alley. I wasn't Mark Miller the accountant anymore. I was a ghost. I kicked the side door open. It clattered against the wall. Darkness. Smell of rust and iodine. I walked in. Silence. Then a beep. A heart monitor. I followed the sound. Down a corridor. Into a makeshift sterile room. Plastic sheets hanging from the ceiling. And there he was. The man. The donor. He was lying on a gurney. Hooked up to tubes. Blood bag draining into his arm. He looked healthy. Pink skin. He opened his eyes when he saw me. He smiled. You found us. Impressive. Where is he? I raised the gun. Pointed it at his head. He pointed a finger to the corner. There was another bed. Tiny. A child lay there. Pale. So pale. Bandages around his hips. His mouth was swollen. Missing teeth. But he was breathing. Leo. I ran to him. I checked his pulse. Weak. But there. I turned back to the man. You sick bastard. You hurt him. I saved myself. The man shrugged. And now. I'm cured. I shot him. I didn't hesitate. I didn't monologue. I pulled the trigger. The bullet hit him between the eyes. He slumped back. Dead. I didn't feel bad. I didn't feel anything. I cut the 4 lines connected to Leo. I picked him up in my arms. He was so light. He groaned. Daddy? I cried. Yes, buddy. It's Daddy. I've got you. Is the bad man gone? Yes. He's gone forever. I carried him out of the warehouse. Sirens were wailing in the distance. Someone heard the shot. I ran to my rental car. I put Leo in the back seat. I got in the front. I looked in the rearview mirror. I saw my face. Scarred. Aged. Hollow. But alive. I started the car. Where are we going, Daddy? Leo asked weakly. I looked at the GPS. Mexico was 6 hours away. We were never going back to that life. No more DNA tests. No more lawyers. No more truth. Just us. Somewhere warm. Somewhere safe. We are going home, Leo. Just a different home. I drove into the night, leaving the truth behind in a pool of blood. What would you have done? Would you have accepted the first DNA test? Would you have believed Sarah? And if you were Mark, would you have pulled the trigger?